most of the apartment, 75% of this, is just like open space, like a roller skating rink. You walk back past the kitchen, and then there's partitioned off a bedroom. 5 plate glass windows on the back. She's got 2 pieces of furniture in the bedroom. One, an old, really super antique armoire. It's like carved with lions' paws, and you know, one of those, right? Super antique. And a bed. Here's what the bed looks like. 4-posted bed with drapes all around the side, and a roof. 3 feet off the ground, centered in the room. One gigantic Ark of the Covenant bed. It's the kind with drapes and like, right? Crazy. It is like you know, some holy stone from Mecca is kept inside there. It's the only thing in the room. In the living room, in the living space, she is an interior design major. So she's got little, try to imagine this, little islands of little sofas, small sofas, like love seats. There's an island here, there's an island over here, there's an island over here, and way over here, there's another island. And then there's a couple like semi-islands. They're not really islands, they're like half with a couple chairs. From the ceiling around each one of these islands, she has hung drapes. Sheer, flowy drapes. Do you know what I mean? Like they're walled with sheer, flowy drapes, but you can see through everything, right? But not really. It's kind of like, okay, kind of not, depends. Onto those, sometimes she shines pictures of like clouds and things, right? So there's like a video projector up there, onto, it's shining like images. Unbelievably cool. It was so cool. It was the coolest place I'd ever seen. Like, no recording.
I'm not recording.
Oh, dude. It was seriously the coolest place. It was like, it was as cool as she was. And she would throw these parties. And the parties were like salon parties, right? So she'd invite artists and musicians, and she would invite, and people would read poetry. It was like something out of like what, like if I had described the perfect thing for me at the time, that would have just pulled it right out of my head, that would have been it, right? And I was here hanging out with all of these like people that were like, here's the people from the art gallery over here, and here's a couple artists, and everybody looked weird and strange, and I was like the most weirdly conservative looking guy in the room, and everything was great. But slowly, I started to realize that things were like kind of weird, right? Like, she would only go out at night, and I started to feel like when we went out on a date, that she wasn't out with me, she was out with a story that she was telling herself, and I was playing one of the characters. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know it, but I was. It was like she had imagined some kind of story date, and she had invented a guy, and she got me to play the role of that guy, and it was like, it was just strange. Like, I never felt like, slowly it was almost like every date was some pre-planned sort of strange, like, okay, I'll just give you one example. So, one night, she says, come on over to my place, I got a present for you. I get over there, and she's bought me a suit. It's really cool black suit. And she goes to me, I go, love it. So, put this suit on. It was like this awesome suit. She goes, we're going to go out now. I'm like, yeah, let's go somewhere. It's only, 12. And so we go out to this graveyard. She wants to take a walk with me in a graveyard. So I'm like, but for me at that time, I'm like, she's really pretty. So like, for a while you can hear crazy, crazy pretty, crazy pretty, crazy pretty, right? And then it takes a while. And I was naive, and I didn't. So we're kind of walking arm in arm through this graveyard, and we're looking at all the tombstones, and they're all tombstones of little children. And you can still see this place in Tinton today. It's all the birthdays. It's like 2 years old, 3 years old, and they're all from like the early 1900s. And she was like, the energy here is so strange. And I'm like, yeah, it's really, really strange. I'm in a suit with this in a graveyard at 12 o'clock in the morning. It just didn't make any sense. Like, and I kept saying in my head, I kept going, I'm normal, I'm normal, I'm normal. That's one example. And it's like, and as time went on, she started to tell me stories of family history. She started telling me stories about her family had gobs of money, and they had a plantation out in East Texas, and it was a plantation on which, a long time ago when it was first built, there was the murder of 3 little children. there's 2 brothers and a daughter, and they were young, and when they found the bodies, they were laid out, 1, 2, 3, by a well that was like half a mile away from the house down in the woods. And the bodies had been laid to where they were like perfectly somebody had taken total care to make them look like they were totally sleeping and all of this. And she's telling me the story, and I'm like, that's a really cool story and everything, but we're in a graveyard. I'm scared.
I have 19 minutes.
So I'm trying to play it cool, listening to the story. And then she says, I was there. And I'm like, wait. She goes, I was the little girl. You're insane! I didn't say it out loud, I said it inside, right? I was like, what? Like, I can feel the gears. And I'm like, she goes, and so were you. And I'm like, she goes, yeah, you were there. And I'm like, which one of the brothers was I? She goes, you weren't one of the brothers. And that could only make me one person. The murderer! No, I'm not the murderer. Like, that was another example. And it got worse. Like, it got worse. And then as time passed on, I was like, this girl's crazy, and I'm normal, and I'm like, and honestly, I'm like, I gotta find a normal girl that will go out to a movie with me, and take a walk through an actual park, and eat popcorn, and go see a movie about a cat. Yeah, it's a cat. Really, I was just like, this is just too weird and dark and like, interesting, but I just wasn't that kind of guy. I mean, I'm just not, right? I just wasn't. And so after a considerable amount of time, I finally, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I was still in my room now. I'm like, Kevin, I gotta wake up there. He was like, are you nuts? And I'm like, no, she is. Or just really, really different or whatever, but it was just, I mean, I'm normal, and I was losing sleep, I wasn't able to, like I gotta sleep at night sometimes, and so, I remember one night I was up over at her apartment, and I was like, what should we call her? Let's call her...
Debbie. No, pick a creepy name. Stacy.
Call her Debbie. Stacy.
Let's call her...
Stacy, that's a creepy name.
Let's call her...
Yeah.
Susan. Susan, I said, I just don't feel this is working out. I go, honestly, you're wonderful, and you're great, and you're possessed, and everything, and beautiful and all, but I need, it's not working for me, and I gotta get some sleep. And then this society, I'm like, you need a nice young vampire, and get together, settle down, wrought iron fence, 2 little spawns of Satan. Well, I mean, I didn't say that, I was thinking in my head. But the night before I went over, so I knew I was gonna like, what did you call it, break up? And I'm like, I've never broken up before. Because well, I did one time with Marlene, but I did not have a lot of practice at breaking up. I had a lot more practice on the other end, like being broken up with. But so I was worried because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And you're gonna try to, how do you say it without like actually saying, I think you're the spawn of Satan. But you got to do it politely, So I was like, I just don't think this is working out. And I remember she looked at me, and her eyes got really big, and she cocked her head to the side, and she got this little smile, and she goes, okay. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, okay. No problem with that then. Just we'll split up, cool. So I'll just get up and walk out of here, and you won't throw any hatchets at me. That's cool, right? yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, oh, that was really easy. Maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. It was just too simple. And so I walked down the stairs, got into my books, and pop, went back to the campus. Okay, and stuff was cool for like a month. And then at night, the phone ring, 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 ring. Probably 4 weeks later, late at night, 2 o'clock. Ring, 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 ring. Ring, ring, ring. I pick up the phone, and the voice on the other end says, I have to see you. Like, who is this? I have to see you. Susan, I have to see you. Wait, no, we're broken up. I'm seeing somebody else. No, I have to see you. No, you don't understand. Like, wait, and like, she sounded like, sort of like she was tripping or something, and I was like, what's wrong? I can't understand. She goes, I have to see you. And I'm like, I tell you what, you call me back tomorrow during the daytime after you get out of your box, and so I hung up. And then a couple nights later, ring, 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 2 o'clock in the morning. So I've got to see you. This is Susan. I'm going out with somebody. I can't even talk to you. Ring, 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 the next night. Then one night I'm walking out of my class, one of my Friday night classes, late at night, I'm walking out, there she is! And I'm like, oh man, and then I go, oh, and I turn around, she's gone. And I'm like, whoa! and then Kevin's like, one night, he's like, dude, he goes, you gotta get up, you gotta come to the window. I'm like, what? And so we go, I'm like, oh, we go to the window, he raises the blinds a little bit. There she is! And I was like, oh, call, ring, ring, ring. And then, pound, pound, pound on my door, waking everybody up. It was like embarrassing. I was like, now it's like becoming this nightmare, right? And I suddenly realized, I'm like, oh my God, I got a stalker, right? I got a stalker, I'm being stalked. Excellent! I don't walk around with my friends, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, hey, my name's Jay, I got a stalker. Is there? Appreciate it, stalker, man. Crazy, that's me. I don't know what to do. Like for a while, I was like, this is the dudes with a guy to go, right? The guy's like, that's cool. Stalkers are out. Well, at least for me, that's best. But then after a while, she starts pounding on the door and waking everybody up, and it's like getting embarrassing. And I'm like, finally, I just had to be. I'm like, look, this is, it's not going to work. Absolutely. And she said some things that were kind of scary, and then I said some things that were probably not very nice. But you got to be firm with the satanic stalker. Blackmail's above. You can't just be like, you got to get holy water. But I mean, she was not. I mean, there was not in other than just the fact that she's really different. I mean, she was not. There was a core of it. It was wonderful. So I didn't want to. But how do you do that? How do you break it when it's getting really crazy like that? So finally I was really yeah. And, well, no, it wasn't exactly that. So finally, it stops. And time stops. She's gone. I walk out of my dorm room, and I'm like, walk to class, come out of class at night. I think I'm kidding, but it's like a girl. Where's my stalker? And like I quit carrying a knife with me and stuff. And, so time passed, and I went into the next season, the next year of school, and I have not seen her on campus. I haven't seen any lights on downtown. I don't drive by her place, no reason to. I haven't seen hide no icing on the hair. And then one night. I get scared actually telling this part, so one night around October, same kind of like thing is in the air, it's starting to get like chill at night, and my roommate's gone again, and it's just been one of those beautifully smoke-filled early winter nights that I love, adore, and I got into my bed,
27 minutes off.
I opened up the window, and I cuddled up with my big comforter. I didn't cuddle, guys don't cuddle, but I just covered myself with my comforter, and I had just been reading, I was reading myself to sleep, and drifted off, and I could feel the cold air coming in, and there was actually some, like, think of frost in the air, like storms, frost, like part rain, maybe thunderstorm, maybe a little bit of hail later, and so I love the change of weather, you know what I mean? Like, I love weather, everybody loves weather, and so this was one of those nights, right? And so I drift off to sleep, and then I'm having a wonderful dream, I think, about a frog with a fuzzy hat. He's talking to me about some stuff. And I don't really remember the dream, but that's a cool dream. Kind of dream I actually have. And all of a sudden, ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, 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 and I'm like, I get out of bed, pick up the phone, and I said,